Okay, we're continuing with the hidden history of nutrition, health, and science by me, Pete Rogers. We're now going through all these great scientists in alphabetical order. Well, not alphabetical order, chronological order. This is Rudolf Virchow, German Protestant Lutheran pathologist in the mid-1800s. He's known as the father of pathology. He's real famous for Virchow's triad, basically what causes blood clotting. And he'll say basically abnormal blood flow, sluggish blood flow, stationary blood flow, stasis from sitting around and long traveling too far, abnormal blood, hypercoagulable blood for whatever the reason, abnormal arterial wall. And around the same time, Rokitansky was another famous pathologist, and he said that atherosclerosis was basically a blood clot. And atherosclerosis is a blood clot. That's a AO, academic orgasm. Once you understand that, and by the way, one of the things I am is a radiologist and an imaging-guided surgeon, interventional radiologist. I can tell you, after seeing many, many thousands of them, atherosclerosis is a blood clot. If you look at a CAT scan, a CT angiogram, you can't tell the difference between a blood clot and atherosclerosis because they're the same thing, okay? Just like an atherosclerotic plaque can recanalize, a blood clot can recanalize. Just like a hematoma is reabsorbed by the immune system, an atherosclerotic plaque, blood clot is reabsorbed by the immune system. Okay, oh yeah, nice quote by Virchow. He said that Darwin was a fool. Okay, I agree that I think Darwin was smart, but Darwin was a liar is what I would describe him as. Okay, let me go to the next slide here. The next one is Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur was the big pioneer of pasteurization, of microbial fermentation. He developed what was called the germ theory. Bacteria can cause a lot of infections. Okay, now Pasteur was a French guy. He was competing with this German Lutheran guy, Koch, okay, a Protestant Lutheran who won the Nobel Prize in 1905 for his work on tuberculosis, Koch's postulates. He also studied cholera. He developed advanced techniques for culturing and isolating bacteria. Okay, Koch's postulates are used to prove that a bacteria is causing a particular disease. The next guy we're going to talk about is Antoine Beechamp. So Beechamp is the guy who was a pioneer of what's called terrain theory. And terrain theory is the idea that an infection happens not so much because you got an aggressive bacteria, but more so because the person's immune system is weak. An example of this would be patients on immunosuppressed drugs get more infections. Patients on chemotherapy, immunosuppression, get more infections. People on corticosteroids get more infections. People with diabetes, which suppresses their immune system, they get more infections. What I found funny was the germ theory is really big bucks because you can sell all kinds of antibiotics, etc. But the terrain theory, you don't make money off it. So I couldn't even find a picture of them on the internet, which I find kind of funny. If you sell drugs, the system makes you famous. If you don't sell drugs, the system ignores you or hides you. Okay, here's another guy who was a brilliant guy who got ignored by history. His name is Rosenow. And Rosenow was this big, famous pathologist at Mayo Clinic. And he developed a whole bunch of techniques about his belief that bacteria could change from one species into another. Because he showed that they could do that based on the amount of oxygen you expose them to. So then you start getting into the question, well, what is a bacteria? What is a bacterial species? So I thought that was kind of interesting because there's all kinds of gradients of oxygenation in your mouth as you go deeper into a cavity, for example, deeper into the dentine tubules. All the teeth have little tubules that connect the mouth proper, so to speak, with the inside of the tooth pulp. So anyways, this book about him I thought was not written by him, it was written about him by this guy, Shackman. I thought it was an interesting book. Okay, it's another reason why you don't want to do root canals. And how a tooth infection can cause infections all over the body. Weston Price confirmed all that. Okay, the next hero of history we'll talk about is Gregor Mendel. Gregor Mendel was a Catholic monk, and the guy was a genius. He figured out the basic patterns of inheritance, autosomal dominant, autosomal recessive, okay? And this was a big boost to Darwinism. So Darwinism uses for what is now called neo-Darwinism genetics to help explain why different types will occur. And obviously, genetic inheritance is more complicated than Mendelian inheritance. Mendelian inheritance is for simple forms of inheritance. It can be multifactorial, much more complicated. But it was extremely useful work. He was ignored during his lifetime and for about 30 years after his death. And then some people researching this area, they discovered him. They're like, holy crap, this guy figured it out already. It was nice that they gave him credit. That doesn't always happen. That's probably my fate to be ignored for who knows how long. Okay, but I'd rather be ignored than be dead, so I'll take that. Heinrich Schliemann, he is the real Indiana Jones. He's the guy who loved the Iliad and the Odyssey, and he believed it was real. He became rich, and then he married a Greek woman and went to the ancient site, and he found the city of Troy. He said, I have seen the face of Agamemnon, the mask of Agamemnon. He excavated Troy. So he's a real heroic guy. It's a pretty amazing story. And that's what I love, too. All these college professors are like, oh, there's no such thing as Troy. And this guy goes, screw you. Yes, there is. I'm going to go find it. And he finds it. That's what you find. College professors tend to be kind of worthless. They don't really know what they're talking about, and they don't really care. It's like you'll never find a painter who teaches painting in a college. You'll never find a philosopher who's a philosopher in a college, because a real painter or a real philosopher would not be allowed at the college. If you're real, you're not allowed at a college for a lot of things. Notice, everybody talks about minorities and diversity and all this stuff and DEI. I'm the smartest minority doctor in the world. It's pretty obvious, anybody who watches my videos. And I've never once been invited to speak at a minority organization. I've never once been invited to speak at a university or a high school or a grad school to minority students. Not once, never. It's a big fake. What they really want is minority puppets to place in organizations to be controlled. They don't want to help minorities. They don't like minorities, okay? They just pretend that they do. It's a way to keep out whites, keep out Asians a little bit, and to generate puppets, okay? That's the reason why all that stuff happens. If they really wanted to help minorities, they'd be doing all kinds of things like, solidifying the family, encouraging fathers to be present, couples to be married when they have kids instead of out of wedlock. All right, but we're not going to get into that right now. We're talking about this historical stuff, not about these current event things. Okay, here's one book, Homer, the Iliad, about the battle between Greece and Troy. I'm not going to get into that right now. Okay, we'll just do one last guy for today. This is James Clerk Maxwell with his wife there. And he was one of the all-time great geniuses of physics, He figured out electricity, magnetism, and light were all different manifestations of pretty much the same thing, electromagnetic radiation. And he's considered the second greatest physicist after Isaac Newton. And like Isaac Newton, he was a totally super religious guy, studying the Bible all the time, memorizing long passages from the Bible. So that's why, like all these, lying scumbag trolls try to tell me, oh, how could an intelligent person be religious? BS. The reality is, how could an intelligent person not be religious? Once you've studied a little bit of biochemistry, molecular biology, fine-tuning arguments of astronomy and molecular biology, it's like, how could you not be religious? There is no remote explanation for it. It's off the charts complex. It's complex beyond, if all the king's horses and all the king's men, all the smart men in the world try to do, they can't do 1% of the things that God does all the time in living cells. So anyways, that's it for today. Hope you found that helpful.